Our world contains a hidden history, a secret story to the origins of our present. Most of the strange rock formations in our realm were not created by millions of years of wind and rain. Our realm didn't start off as a molten, rocky wasteland filled with stubby-armed dinos. But instead, it was a beautiful forest, a garden of the gods. There were massive trees, mushrooms, and other colossal edibles. Our predecessors, the Titans and Giants, shaped the world that we know today and created technology that we can only imagine. But war broke out, and the world was flooded with the salty waters that we call oceans. Along with the tidal waves came surge after surge of mud and debris that trapped everything in its path. Minerals filled the pores of animate and inanimate objects alike, as oxygen was immediately cut off to anything caught in the waters or mud. When the waters receded, the great light in the sky baked the mineralized remains as the ancient muddy stew of paradise densified, giving rise to the Age of Rock, or more commonly known as the Stone Age. Millions and millions of strange rock formations fill our world. We normally walk right past them without a second thought, but we literally stand on the shoulders of giants. The legends are true. The mud floods coated and kept the lost world, preserving it in statue form for us to find. But all of this is written off as a hoax or dismissed by those who would say that we have an overactive imagination. The truth is, almost every form of life in our esoteric past, although obliterated from our collective memory, survived and surrounds us. We've learned to take them for granted, dismissing them for simply a part of the earth, as if we weren't. The evidence for an advanced world pre-existing this one is all around us. We have become blind to it. But this is the age of disclosure, the onset of the eon of open minds. This modern worldview is quickly passing away as ancient oblivion returns and is remembered. Ancient technology fossilized. Tree stumps were petrified, the trolls turned into rock, the giants were frozen in time. And then, from out of the mineralized remains of the ancient world, emerging from the fresh clay of the old world, came a new type of life, who would forget their origins until they realized the ground that they now walk on is comprised of the mud fossils from a lost realm, waiting, and when realized, would forever change our written history, our present understanding, and give rise to a new purpose and a better future.
Aloha, what's up everyone? I'm DreamerZ. Welcome to my channel if you're new here. So this is going to be an interesting conversation, an interesting chat today. I've done many different subjects on my channel. One of the subjects that I'm very interested in, I have a whole playlist dedicated to it, is the subject of mud fossil theory. Now I just call it a theory just because, some people might say it's a fact or whatever. And people have their own opinions, their own perspectives, their own beliefs and ideas on life. But I have a whole playlist, so if you're interested in getting to know the concept, I wanted to play that introductory video just so that you can get a feel for what mud fossils are all about. All right, sweet. So with that being said, I haven't talked about the concept in quite some time because I've been so focused on all the different elements of the plasma apocalypse. I believe mud fossils is one of those elements of the plasma apocalypse. So, why am I making this video? Basically, I heard about mud fossils and the concept and different theories and ideas from a YouTube channel called Mudfossil University. And it's solely ran by a guy named Roger. He does all of his own work and his own research and stuff and handles his own channel all by himself, just like me. And I learned some stuff. I gleaned from him and his teachings, and I respected him, and I still respect him for that. And I do that with everywhere I go. Everything that I share with all of you is stuff I've gleaned from the rest of the world throughout my path and my walk and my journey. And, I elaborate, come up with my own little additions and tweak things according to how I see the world and my research. So I hope you appreciate that, just like I've appreciated Roger's channel for so long. Now, I am subscribed to Roger. I'm also subscribed to a channel called The Leak Project. Currently, I'm totally subscribed. I don't really watch it that much anymore. It used to be more interesting to me, personally. But I am subscribed, and I did notice on, hey, thank you, I appreciate you, man. I did notice on Roger's channel that he had posted a short video about how he was invited to go onto the Leak Project channel, as I had been in my past as well. So I actually have some notes here. Let me just go over my notes because I feel like I'm rambling. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to read these notes because I wrote this all. I watched Roger's video and I was highly upset because I don't like bullying. I don't like people ganging up on other people just because they have more numbers, specifically academics. I can't stand academics. Mainstream academics and academia is not my friend, not whatsoever. I don't like school systems. I don't like the system. I don't like lawyers and anything that's involved in the system itself. And especially whenever people throw around the word science as if it means something more than just knowledge. And science is this, science is that. You have to do this to do science and etc. No, I'm not a fan of that. Oh, why is there a big square above my head? Hold on one sec. Where is that thing coming from? That's weird. Anyways, I'm going to not let that distract me. All right, so I've spoken about and referenced mud fossil theory on my channel. In many of my videos, I've built an entire playlist devoted to the topic, as well as a section on my website, jdreamers.com. I first heard about it from a man named Roger Spur on his YouTube channel, Mudfossil University. Roger was invited to be a guest on the Leak Project, a channel that I had been a guest on a few years ago. I had been well received, sharing fantastic and almost unbelievable ideas, and I felt honored. Roger was shunned, ridiculed, and insulted and dismissed in and from the live stream that he was invited to, and all because his ideas didn't line up with those of the other self-proclaimed academic guest. Then Rex, who's the guy who owns and does the Leak Project. Rex from the Leak Project, some guy named Ra, who didn't get a word in edgewise, and the Joe Pesci of paleontology. And I say that because I like Joe Pesci. Okay, he's interesting to me. He's an interesting guy, just like I felt like this guy was interesting. I didn't like his attitude or his vibe, but interesting nonetheless, right? Interesting people add flavor to the world. Let's see. So they continue their discourse, which was more like a monologue. Here are some points the academic paleontologist made in reference to Roger Spur, which I'll be responding to. Okay, so now that was from my notes that I had written last night. I watched this video and I was upset, man. Like I felt like I just watched some kid in school get picked on by the jocks or something. I did not like that whatsoever. And based on the comments on that particular video, a lot of others felt similar. Oh, thanks, Bobby. Yes. So anyhow, I didn't like it. I literally couldn't sleep. Okay, that's how much it upset me. I felt bad for Roger, poor guy. I'm sure he can handle himself, by the way. This is not in any way like, someone needs to defend him or anything like that. His channel is solid. He's got a solid channel. He doesn't need to bother with trolls or bullies or anything like that or whatever. And he's learning as he goes, just like I have been for the past, 7 years now, right? All right, so let's see. I want to talk about this dude, the Joe Pesci of paleontology. I don't want to keep calling him that, even though I like it because it's fun. But I swear to God, I was waiting for him to say the two Utes. The two youths. The what? Oh, I'm sorry. Youths. Anyways, I'm just trying to be lighthearted. I don't know the guy. His name's Diamond. He has a channel. I think it's called, what was it called? Something project. The something project. I forgot what it's called. But anyway, he's got his own little channel. He's trying to, like, you know, show people what it's like to live off the grid or whatever. I don't watch his channel. I don't know I know like zero about it. I have seen one video that he did with some dude named Jay, who basically all they did was just slam into other people's beliefs, you know, slamming on mud fossils, slamming on archaic and ancient cosmologies and cosmological beliefs and stuff. Like, that's not cool in my book. So whatever, I'm gonna address that. So Diamond, I believe, is his name, so I'll just call him that. Hopefully that's his actual name, or what he goes by. All right, so I'm gonna share some quotes. Hey, Tyrex, what's up, man? Welcome to the channel. I like your little drawing. That's tight. Robin Smith says, I love your spirit, Jay. Thanks for helping me to get in touch with mine. You rock, man. Pun intended. I like it. I love dad jokes and puns. All right, so check this out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quote this guy from the video. I left a link in the description, so if you'd like to check out the video, welcome, Issa. Good to see you. I left a link in the description to Roger's response video, you know, which kind of broke my heart, made me kind of sad. Excuse me. And to Rex's video that he put out in his live stream. So what I'm going to be doing mostly is quoting this Diamond guy, okay? Quote number 1. Let's start things off. And then, oh, by the way, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share all of this and my response to the video, and then I'm going to put up on the screen many examples of mud fossils, and I'm going to talk about those once we're done, okay? So part 1, we're going to respond. Part 2, we're going to check out some mud fossils, all right? So he says, you're linking up with someone who has... Okay, first of all, I guess this raw dude who really didn't get to talk because he kept getting interrupted, I guess the raw dude seemed to be siding with Roger in the eyes of Diamond, right? Excuse me. So Diamond says, you're linking up with someone who has jumped off a cliff and not doing science the way that science works. Let's talk about how science works, okay? First of all, let me just go ahead and bust out the etymology of science. All right, so I'm going to etymonline.com, one of my favorite websites to research etymology. One sec, science. Boom. Okay, so boom, science means what is known, knowledge of something that's acquired by study and information, etc. There's lots of nuances. It comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word ski, which means to cut or to split. Essentially, it gives us and conveys the meaning of to examine something, right? To look closer, to pull it apart, to break it apart, to look deeper into it, right? That's science. That's it. Science, by the actual word, is not a college degree that you get and a process that you go through where you have to do this and you have to do this and don't forget about this and don't forget about that, because if you missed one of these steps, you're not a scientist. Garbage. If you learn, you're a scientist. If you examine closer, you're a scientist, okay? This is going to conflict absolutely with academics and what academia has to say about it. I don't care about academia. Academia is not something I'm trying to impress, okay? Academia can go pound sand for all I care. I've never liked academia. They put you through, how many years of schooling to teach you two things that you actually use in your daily life for the most part. There's always exceptions. Basic speech and reading skills and basic math. Why? So that you can be a slave, go to work, and do your job. But even then, you don't need those things because computers are doing it all for you. So, the way that science works, science doesn't work, okay? Science is not an action. Science is like a state of being, okay? It's knowledge. It means to know something. You know something. Maybe it's an action, I don't know, but it depends on how you interpret it. But anyway, when he talks about how science works, he's talking from an academic mindset. He's talking about from the mindset and the side of the professors and the colleges and the governments and all of the things that have been approved officially. I don't believe in officials. That's just where I'm coming from. So I've talked about this before. If you bake something, you're a baker. I don't care. You don't need a certificate from the Wizard of Oz to make you feel better about it so that you can brag and show everyone, look, someone else told me I'm a baker. No, claim that for yourself. Be what you are. All right, the next quote. Oh, thanks, Issa. Issa says good stuff. Oh, Heather McIntyre is her first chat. Right on. Good to see you. That's a cool picture, too. All right, back to the quotes here. So he emphasizes, this guy Diamond, he emphasizes that he's a graduate geologist taught at a university. Ooh, wow. Like, you know what that means to people who don't care? Like, I'm not impressed. Me personally, like, you know, if I watched that particular YouTube channel, I'm not going to be impressed by that. I'm not that type of person. And there's a lot of people out there who are like me. There's probably way more people out there who are not like me, which is they follow the academic Pied Pipers of the world, you know, and the talking heads and mascots of science like Bill Nye and, you know, all those types of people. But whatever. I'm not impressed by graduates, graduations, diplomas, certificates, writings of approval, notaries, whatever it is. If you need a wax seal to put some king's emblem on it, I'm not impressed. I don't care. That's the system I fight against. I care about independent research and peer reviews. Those people are not your peers, okay? Those kings and queens and presidents and governments, etc., they're not your peers. Why is that pink line up there? Hold on. I got to check this real quick. Pink line. Goodbye. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. What the heck? Oh, wait a minute. One sec. I think I got it. Booyah. Papow. Yes, thank you. Okay, that was going to bug me. All right, next up, what else we got? We got this quote. There's nowhere in literature dating back as far as you can go about anything about mud fossils. Let's do some screen sharing. Shall we? Where's my screen sharing? Flip, flip. One sec. There it is. Is it that one? No. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? Boom. There we go. All right, sweet. Let's see. So there's nothing in literature as far back as you can go about mud fossils. Well, I beg to differ. Now, I'm just going to share one example because that's all you need to prove that absolute statement is just one to prove that it's not absolutely true. Where do we go? Here we go. Petrification in mythology and fiction. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to use it as a reference point. Petrification, defined as turning people to stone, or animals or whatever, is a common theme in folklore and mythology, as well as in some works of modern literature. And that's essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about petrification, okay? Mud fossils, you could call it whatever label you want to label it. We're talking about fossils. We're talking about petrified being, something that wasn't stone and now it is stone. That's what we're talking about. There's countless examples all throughout history of this happening. Now, if you're not a fan of mythology or lore or ancient tales of old or whatnot, that's fine. That's your thing. However, I will say there's much more of that across time and history than there is of anything in your modern textbooks. I'm totally guessing on that, but I would assume that there is, just because, based on my research and just because time has, the ancient world has been, something way longer than the modern world. So it makes sense to me. All right, let's go back to these notes here. Let's see. Nowhere in literature dating back as far as you can go is there anything about mud fossils. Yes, there is. Actually, let me just give a few of these examples here. We've got examples in Europe, including Medusa, the Gorgon, Perseus, who killed Medusa, cut off her head, and used it to petrify what was it, the Kraken or something? Homer's Odyssey, there's accounts, Poseidon turning a ship into stone. Heracles, Iodame, Letheia, Olenus, Battus, Metamorphosis by Ovid, which I'll share a little piece of later on. Even in Catholicism, Saint Barbara talks about petrification, instant petrification. And when I talk about petrification, I'm also not talking about millions of years. Like when you see on the History Channel or something, they're like, how did something like this happen, you might ask? Well, it all started over a quintillion, quadrillion, googleplex, billion, jillion, million, quadrillion, million years ago. Imagine that. And then imagine that anything can happen over that much time. Get out of here, man. They always do that. They always add a billion years to something just so that your imagination can take off and say, oh, I could see how over a billion years this could happen, instead of talking about these changes happening drastically and quickly, right? I'm not in the chat right now, just so you know, because I got lots of stuff on my screen. All right, so what is a mud fossil? Let's check out what Roger says. This is his definition, tentatively, from his channel. It says, mud fossils are perfectly preserved, mineralized, now stone, soft tissues due to continuous wet anaerobic mud packed conditions. So essentially something that's organic, falls into or gets covered by mud, seals off the oxygen from it, etc. It starts to petrify. Which is one way that petrification can happen. Now, here's my own definition. My own definition, which is, now I'm not saying I'm right or anything, it's just how I see it. Mud fossils are often petrified remnants of our own hidden or forgotten history, especially that of the cyclical plasma apocalypse, which is a reoccurring theme on my channel. So, next, Diamond goes into it a bit more and says this is not even debatable. First of all, the dude wasn't debating with him, okay? This dude Raw, I felt so bad for him, man. He wasn't even debating. He couldn't even talk. Hold on, let me take this off the screen real quick. Pow. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's leave this up because I'm going to come right back to this in just a second. We're going to go back to my friend Girolamo Sagato, Mr. Mud Fossil. I am going to be showing some images that might seem a little gruesome at first. But whatever, they're basically statues, so take it or leave it. All right, where was I? So, oh yeah, that's right. So then the dude Raw is just trying to like respond to whatever he's saying. He's like, it's not even debatable. It's not even debatable. There's nothing in scientific academic literature in geology that talks about this. There's nothing in literature, scientific literature anywhere that talks about petrification. Like, really? I'm pretty sure there is. But that's just me. Now, I correct myself, and I stand corrected. It's not just me. Right here, you've got my buddy Girolamo Sagato. Girolamo Sagato, Mr. Mudfossil. Girolamo. Okay. I always have to sing that song. Now, Girolamo Sagato is, or was, a member, before he died, of the academic community, okay? He was somebody that basically, a scientist that discovered how to petrify the human body. So, you know, I've heard people like, oh, you can't, like, humans becoming petrified is ridiculous. That's scientific. That's unscientific. That's fantastic. That's fantasy. That's not real. That's a lie, is basically what they're saying. So let's look at the truth. Girolamo Sagato, modern day Indiana Jones, essentially. Girolamo Sagato was born in an Italian monastery in northern Italy, the third of 13 children, and there he started learning the elementary principles of botany, chemistry, and mineralogy. He would eventually become an accomplished naturalist and anatomist. We're going to skip forward a bit. Instant fossil. Fapow. What little remains of his Egyptian notes, maps, and drawings are quite impressive. His Atlas of Upper and Lower Egypt was published posthumously as well as several maps and essays. But almost all of them were destroyed in a fire in Cairo. Imagine that. This guy figures out some of the secrets of the ancient Egyptians and figures out how to petrify human beings, and all of his work, or most of it, was destroyed in a fire in Egypt. Sound familiar? Library of Alexandria? Yes? That's what the government does. That's what academics does whenever people start getting hold of ancient information that can change their, other people's worldviews and free them from the mental slavery that they've been living in. They have you burn it. They threaten you. They kill people, etc. The eccentric idea that would shape his later life probably occurred to him during his extensive trips and began from his obsession with mummies. Around 1823, not content being a naturalist, cartographer, Egyptologist, and anatomist, Sagato decided to go one step further and develop a novel technique that would allow the conservation of bodies after death. During his expeditions, he had become an expert in ancient mummification techniques, but ordinary mummies were far too basic for him. He wanted to turn bodies to stone, like a modern version of Medusa. The fact that 18th century people were pretty obsessed with death might have helped too. Also, he probably would have said, why the hell not? Sagato developed multiple preservation methods, producing different groups of preparations. Some specimens were obtained, replacing organic fluids with some unknown chemical, possibly potassium silicate, not unlike similar preparations used by other embalmers of the time. Some others were dry anatomical pieces obtained by common dehydrating procedures. But the last group is an interesting one. He somehow successfully replaced the organic tissue with mineral matter while preserving the original color, shape, texture, and even the cellular structure of the original material, basically creating instant fossils. Sagato almost always petrified specimens of limited size, fetuses, body parts, marked partially for female breasts and nipples, never whole human bodies or large animals. This might suggest that he used a method that is not applicable to large surfaces, probably a process of immersion in chemical or mineral solution. That's their guess. About the substances he may have used, very little can be said, since Sagato destroyed his notes and the preservation of the specimens makes mass spectrometry analysis impossible. His works were remarkable and could have very well been used as anatomical models by med students, but were almost exclusively regarded as curiosities. Now, what does that mean, that they were just almost exclusively regarded as curiosity? This is a petrified kidney, just in case you're wondering. Just in case you don't think that body parts like lungs or kidneys can be petrified, there is proof right there. Faux pas. Anyways, I don't want to read this entire article, but essentially the church and mainstream academics and whatnot ran him off. Now here's another article in regards to Girolamo Sagato, and it says, but in this surpassing and almost magic art, not only, as we have said, the precise exterior outline is faithfully and exactly represented, but also the most minute and delicate interior arrangement of structure admirably perpetuated. As, for example, the entire viscera of the chest and abdomen, with all their varied and beautiful convolutions, were clearly exhibited, retaining even the colors of the blood vessels, in preparation of frogs, birds, and other animals besides the human body. Here is Girolamo Sagato. Here are some various examples of some of his works. This is a table made of petrified body parts right here. This is the petrified kidney, I believe it said, right? There's people's heads. There's decapitated heads. There's animals of all various types that were petrified by him. He was actually employed by the government to create things like that table that I just showed you earlier. However, the ruling class didn't pay him when it came time to pay him for his work. So that pissed him off. They've got some plaques and statues and stuff like that depicting him in the traditional Medusa fashion, because he was able to petrify human beings, just like Medusa did. Whoa! Holy cow! Wow, thank you. Super appreciate that. Thank you. Flying farm girl. All right, let's move on. I think you get the point about Girolamo Sagato, Mr. Mudfossil. Let's see. It says here in Wikipedia, word soon spread that Sagato had acquired knowledge of Egyptian magic. Hampered by the society of his time, he was prompted to destroy all his notes before his death. Prompted means bullied. Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb on that one. Prompted means bullied. Now, you might ask, well, where is all of this, right? I don't see any of this. Well, that's because it's kept in a special museum. I can't remember the name of it. I believe it's, let's see. The Florentine Anatomical Museum in the anatomy section of the DMSC. That's where most of his collections are kept. You can go there yourself. You can look up online. You can see all these various examples of body parts. That is a brain. That have been petrified, turned into rock, turned into stone, human beings turned into stone. Now, normally, people just talk about petrification and they talk about petrified trees. That's all they ever want to talk about, right? Oh, yeah, petrified trees. Oh, they're so cool. Oh, I'm going to buy one for $1.50 at the freaking rock shop or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, we know all about petrified trees. All right, I'm going to come back to petrified trees in a minute. I do want to check on the chat. Hold on, let me see what's going on here in the chat. Phew, flying farm girl. Jeez, that was amazing. Thank you. Mudfossil Gaia. Hey, what's up? Cool name. Says, thank you, Jay. You're on a roll. Rocket. Right on. I appreciate it. All right, cool. Okay, so back to these quotes. It's not even debatable. Well, I mean, if you're in the debating community, anything is debatable. Like, anybody can disagree and give reasons why they disagree. So yeah, of course. I mean, technically it is debatable, right? I am not a big debating person. I used to be a long time ago. So that's why I'm just kind of responding right now. I don't really want to debate anybody. Because I've never seen people win debates on either side. It's just one person complains to the other person and nobody's like swayed by the information one way or another. You know what I mean? All right, so moving on. A fossil is a fossil, and something shaped like a fossil is a fantasy. Really? Really? Aren't fossils shaped like fossils? I mean, it sounds kind of redundant, right? And I get this a lot from the academic community. I see it a lot, I guess. I hear it a lot, where they're supposed to be so educated and then they just are redundant and trip over their words and don't make a lot of sense, and I don't get it. Anyways, where was I? A fossil is a fossil. A fossil's a fossil. Basically what he's saying is, if we say, we, meaning the academic community, if we say it's a fossil, then it's a fossil. But if we haven't said it's a fossil, it's totally just a rock. That's all you get, right? Okay. Now let's talk about a concept that he references called pareidolia. Pareidolia versus intellectual or psychological scotoma. Pareidolia is basically when somebody like looks at the clouds and they can imagine different shapes. They're like, oh, that one looks like a mushroom, right? Now, usually they say it looks like a mushroom. I don't know a lot of people that look up at clouds and say, there's a mushroom up there, bro. No, come outside. Come outside. Look, there's a freaking human up there in the sky. And they're like, bro, it's a cloud. No, it's not a cloud, bro. It's a human. You know what I mean? Like, that's a bit different. It's kind of like a Rorschach test. You know you're looking at ink, right? But you can imagine and you can see all the different shapes, right? All right, so that's pareidolia. Now, if you look at, it depends on what you look at, I suppose, right? I've seen some very convincing mud fossils. I've seen stuff that's obviously photoshopped. I've seen stuff that I'm not convinced of whatsoever. It's in the eye of the beholder, right? You have to be fully convinced in your own mind, whoever you are. Now let's talk about psychological scotoma, or more specifically, intellectual scotoma. Scotoma is basically whenever an individual cannot see something that is very obvious to others. Okay, so people in my community, or people in the mud fossil community, or other communities as well. Okay, this extends all over the place, and I believe everyone is a victim of it or suffers from it in some way, shape, or form. wherever you go, even myself. They can't recognize something that many other people can. Other people can clearly walk past a statue and be like, whoa, holy cow, that's like a petrified person. I'm just going to use that as an example, right? Meanwhile, other people will say it's just a rock, right? Just a rock. We're going to talk about just a rock here in a minute as well. So usually I've found that these people who suffer from psychological scotoma, which I've done a video on, by the way, that they tend to group up. All the people who can't see what everyone else can, they all tend to group up and pat each other on the back like academia, to encourage one another. Yeah, it's not there. It's not there. I don't see it. Do you see it? No, I don't see it either. Yeah, that's right. It's not there. You know what I mean? Maybe it is there. Maybe it's not there. That doesn't sound very open-minded though. Let's see here. The next quote, a mud fossil is not a fossil. It's just a rock. Just a rock. There's that word again. Only, just and only. I can't stand those words. It's just a rock. Okay. Well, where do rocks come from, right? Let's speak academically. Academic theories are nonsense to me personally. Dust attracting dust until it makes a planet. Stop with that. Get out of here. Are you serious? Don't even get into that. Don't even go there, right? Like, where do the rocks come from? Space dust. All just electrostatically, all building up over millions of quadrillions of brillions and millions of years. Rue! Hey, what's up, Rue? I love Rue. I haven't seen you in a long time. Good to see you, Rue. Aw, I like your little hug sticker. Thank you. Okay, so where was I? A mud fossil is not a fossil. It's just a rock. Just a rock. That's what people always say until it's not just a rock. Till all of a sudden, they figure it out. Like you could pick up, you know how he was talking about, you could pick up a piece of petrified wood, right? That looks like an arrowhead or whatever it may be. And it's just a rock to you or to whoever until you figure out that it's not. That it's not just a rock. That it's a special rock or that it's something that didn't used to be a rock whatsoever, right? So academics and the academic origins of things don't add up to my lines of questioning whenever I start in on it. So let's skip that. Skip the rest of that. Just a rock. Okay. Limestone is literally made of organic material, right? So basically, I had heard something in there in that particular live stream where it was mentioned that I can't remember exactly what was said. I don't want to misquote or whatever. But he said something about limestone not being able to have fossils or something like that. Limestone is fossils. It's made out of organic material, which means it's made out of little tiny petrified stuff that used to be alive. So, you know what I mean? Mini bright white sand as well. So sand contains fossils. Especially the white sand. Not all of it. There's always exceptions and whatnot, right? Now, Roger displayed a lung, what he calls a lung. Okay, I don't know if it's a lung or not. Kind of looks like a lung-ish. I don't look at a lot of lungs, so I don't know. But he displayed on that channel something that he thought was a lung, and it was made of granite. And then they give their feedback, albeit harsh, and not very tactful. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. It can't be. You can't have fossils in granite. Well, according to the knowledge that you and academia have thus far, that would be a more true statement, right? People make mistakes, however. Does that mean that we throw the baby out with the bathwater just because let's just say that you can't have a fossil in granite or obsidian or whatever else, volcanic types of rocks. Let's just say that you can't, and it's just accepted as an absolute fact, which I don't believe in, but whatever. Let's just say that it can't happen. Don't people make mistakes? Does that mean that we should take all of this person's other research and important and valuable contributions and just throw them out as well? Calling them a charlatan, saying that they're fake and they're purposefully just parading around misleading people? That sounds more like academia to me. Anomalies always exist. So I found that it is best for me to make room for the unknown. Make room for the unknown. All right, moving forward. Let's see. We've got this quote. There has been no blood recovered from any archaeological site ever in history. Let me go back to my screen sharing. No blood has ever been recovered from any archaeological site ever. Basically, he's saying blood can't be petrified or fossilized or whatever. And by the way, just so you know, the word fossil just means something you dug up out of the ground. That's all that it implies. It does not mean it's from billions of years ago or anything. You could go dig up a tin can and it's a fossil out of your backyard. All right, where was I? Oh, here we go. This is interesting. So limestone is a sedimentary rock made almost entirely of fossils. Fa-pow! There you go, just in case you didn't believe me. Let's see. We'll come back to that. What was I just talking about? Hold on. What was I going to look up? Oh, blood. That's right. Let's blood. Oh, well, Girolamo Sagato petrified blood. Okay. As we talked about before, he actually gave blood droplets that were petrified as a gift to his mistress or wife or whoever she was. I can't remember. I already took that website down, so you'll have to Google that one if you'd like to. So yeah, blood can totally be petrified. Here's some other examples as well. Oh, he says, he goes on to say, there's no evidence for blood in any fossils ever infinity. That's the academic side. Infinity. Boom. Ever in the history of Earth. Blood in rocks, he goes on to say, is the complete opposite of everything we know. Notice how he says we. That's the team mentality. Him and the rest of academia. I'm not on that team. So, we've already talked about Girolamo Sagato petrifying blood and the human body. Fossilized mammalian red blood cells were found in petrified ticks. Mosquitoes that have been petrified in amber have been found with blood cells in them. Blood vessels from broken T-Rex bones as well. I'm missing what's going on in the chat. Hold on. Oh, Alan D. Oh my God, Alan D. What? Oh my God, thank you. I'm grateful to have found your channel and all the amazing research you share with us. Wow, thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate all of you. I mean, regardless of... Thank you. Just thank you. That's all. All right, back to the research. So those are many examples of blood clearly being found, petrified, in fossils, and even outside of fossilization. All right, then he goes on to say, what has been eroded to get to the exposed rock everyone's now living on is like 1,100 miles. Okay, so let me just explain. Okay, they started. I can't remember what they were talking about. I don't know if it was Devil's Tower or what. I can't remember. But anyways, basically this guy was saying that the Earth, like the surface that we live on, used to have 1,100 miles more Earth on top of it that just eroded away. Right? What? Okay, where's 1,100 miles of Earth everywhere? Did it just blow off into space? Possibly, because he actually mentions a theory that sounds like he might actually believe that it possibly blew off into space. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, how do you believe that there was 1,100 miles of Earth on top of our surface, right? Like, where did 1,100 miles of Earth go? Space is only 62 miles up. Like, what lived... Like, basically, there wasn't zero atmosphere, zero air, nothing could breathe, nothing could live, nothing could survive. But then, you know, the academics will throw in some weird magic explanation of how the Earth was created, which to me is all nonsense. So how did anything breathe if the ground used to be 1,100 miles up? You know what I mean? Then he goes on to say, this gets funnier to me, I'm sorry. Did you know that 220 million years ago, Africa was touching Manhattan? Really? Wow. How do you or anyone else in academics know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, what happened 220 million years ago when you can barely even tell me what happened 1,000 years ago? You know what I mean? Oh, well, it was the Dark Ages. We don't have a lot of information from that time. Okay, but you can tell me what happened 220 million years ago and where Manhattan was located in proximity to Africa? I don't know, academia. sounds suspicious to me. I think he's referring to like the concept of Pangea, right? And floating continents or whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe the Earth grows. I totally do. Just like he actually, touched on that he thinks the Earth used to be smaller and grows in size or whatever. I don't believe it grows because it's sucking in space dust and comets and whatever all the time. I believe it grows just like your skin grows. But that's just me and my ideas. Let's see here. Yeah, now, then listen to this, okay? Then he goes on and says, and this is not just him. This is stuff that many academics really believe in. They're taught the craziest things. Aw, thanks, Onrod. Love to you and the crew. Love, joy, and hope, my friends. I love it. All right, cool. All right, what else? What's the next quote here? Every 26,000 years, the sun farts and blows off like 3% of the water on Earth. And that's been happening for 500 million years. This is, okay, this is how I feel when I watch people like Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson or any of the mascots, for the football team of science. Like, it sounds so funny and so ridiculous to me. What was that? Geomata, Good Vibe Tribe level 4, right on, congrats. He says, if you haven't read Jay's book, you're missing out. Hey, thanks, I'm glad you like it. Okay, so yes, he believes every 26,000 years, the sun farts. How does that even work in the academic model, where the sun is spinning and doing all this stuff and shooting through, and we're like trying to catch up to it and spinning around it and this and that, and then it just shoots this little fart our way, or wind or whatever it is. Like, oh God, I've already talked about space so many different times. I kind of don't want to right now. All right, so let's move on. I just think that's funny. Okay, next one. He thinks that the Earth was mostly water if we go way back, right? So he's an academic and basically represents the views of mainstream academia because, I mean, this is his own stuff. He's like, I graduated from this college or whatever. I have these degrees and stuff or whatever, and kind of bragged about it. So let's see what NASA says about the Earth being mostly water and where the oceans come from. This one's fun if you want to laugh, if you want a good laugh. NASA says, I got this from NASA's website, okay? Over billions of years. That's how it starts, right? They should have the movie guy introduce all of NASA's theories. Over billions of years. Like, what could not happen over billions of years? You know what I mean? Like, they have to throw that in there. Over billions of years, countless comets and asteroids have collided with the Earth, enriching our planet with water. There you go. The dirty snowball theory, right? Comets carrying impregnated with water, are on their way to deliver, like the guy who brings you your water bottles or whatever, right? Chemical markers in the water of our oceans suggest that most of the water came from asteroids. Wow, what does that even mean? How do you sample water that's been here for however long and tell me that it comes from an asteroid? Oh, this tastes like pretty sure this is asteroid flavored. You know what I mean? NASA goes on to say recent observations hint that ice and possibly even liquid water exist in the interiors of asteroids and comet. I kid you not. These are like the top minds of academia and the government and whatnot, and they believe that snowballs were slamming into the Earth. Like, let me put this into perspective. They also, first of all, they believe that the Earth started off as like a speck of dust, right? And then there was another speck of dust. And they were like, oh, I'm attracted to you. Me too. Let's hug. And then they slammed into each other and stuck. And then there was more dust. Like, can we join the party? And all that dust over billions of years turned into a planet. But the more dust that accumulated, instead of turning into like a dust rock or a clod of dirt, which is what I call it, it got hot. Right? They were hugging so tightly. All the dust was hugging so tightly that it started to turn into magma. This is so ridiculous. burning magma. All the dust just burned itself up. They were hugging so tight, right? To keep warm, I guess. And all that dust turned into magma. So then we had early magma Earth, which was basically on fire. And then all these comets, like, let me ask you a question. If asteroids and comets brought water to Earth, why do they always show asteroids and comets as extinction level events that make huge fireballs? And where are all of the asteroids and comet clumps? Right? You would think the Earth would be, clumpy. I don't know. But that's just me postulating. What else do we got? Let's see. And wouldn't each impact, especially in the Earth's early infancy, throw the entire planet off course or worse into the sun? Just some thoughts I was writing down, right? All right, let's move forward. Zoe Williams is in the chat. What's up, Zoe? I like the hair. Says, DreamerZ, I've saved for so long to get your hoodie. I just ordered it. I'm so excited. Let's keep it good vibes or goodbye. I totally agree. I hope that you like the hoodie. I don't even have one yet. I'm waiting on the food stamps first. Then I'm going to work on getting a hoodie. But I hope it keeps you warm and I hope that you enjoy it. Thanks for supporting me. I totally appreciate you. Jelton Inc. says, what's up, Jay? Good to see you. What up, chat? Good to see everyone. Irregular Absolutions in the chat and says, DreamerZ, I don't know how anything is frozen if the Earth is so hot inside, right? Yeah, they say it's hotter. It's as hot as the surface of the sun in the core of the Earth. Dude, have you ever looked up the temperature of the surface of the sun? Like, if the internal parts of our world were that hot, it would change everything that's a solid past the liquid state and immediately turn it into gas, which would blow up our planet because it would expand everything from the inside out. So nothing about it makes sense. Cerebus 777, thank you. Much love. Appreciate you. All right, let's finish this up because I want to get back to some examples of mud fossils. All right, so we talked about NASA. We talked about where the oceans come from. Then they start talking, all of them, started to talk about the appearance of Fantazoids, or what I call Fantazoids, and mutated DNA, or sudden appearance of strange creatures on Earth, right? So there's a time in the records or whatever, I don't know what records they were looking at, but there was a time whenever all of a sudden new species are just suddenly introduced, or suddenly change, or suddenly mutate. I believe that the plasma apocalypse is responsible for that. I believe that what they refer to as cosmic energy or whatever, which is amplified plasmic charges and ionic charges from the plasma sphere and beyond above, when they come down into our world, they create and create the potential for sudden and massive changes in our world. So they start to talk about this, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then Rex chimes in and says, now check this out. Rex was leaving comments. This is the only thing I have a problem with, right? And I don't know Rex at all. Okay, he's probably a good dude or whatever, and I'm sure he does his best, and I wish him the best, right? With what he does. But he's left all these comments like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. I didn't want him on my channel because he believes in 50-mile-long dragons, or that space rocks are biological in origin, or whatever it may be," right? Like, that was too much for him. That was too much for the guy that talks about the incredible and unbelievable on his own channel, which is fine. Hey man, I don't want to talk about people drinking their own pee or something gross like that on my channel. So I'm like, okay, that's great. Do your own thing. I'm not going to have someone that believes in that on my channel because that's not what I believe in. That's not my thing, right? So I can respect that. But then Rex goes on and says, I can just imagine the appearance of strange creatures I can just imagine a giant spider with 50 eyeballs and some kind of weird laser ears where lasers shoot out of its ears. He says this right after basically shunning Roger for his beliefs, right? For showing a rock that looks like it could be a lung and then presenting evidence to suggest that it is. Like, that blew my mind. You can't imagine that a human lung was petrified. Okay. But you can imagine a giant spider with 50 eyeballs and laser ears. Okay. To each their own, right? I just think that it's not cool to, if you don't want to have somebody on your channel, that's fine. That's respectful. It's your channel, bro. in case he's watching, right? Run your channel how you like, you know, have the guests on that you would like to have on. I'm honored that you had me on the channel, you know. He might be changing his mind about it now, but I think that's cool. Do your thing, you know, and you don't have to change your thing just because other people insist that you do their thing, right? But where it's not cool and where I try to draw my own line is I'm not going to reject somebody else's ideas and then go and say, you know, that that they're frauds and they're charlatans and put them down, and you know what I mean? Like try to get everyone else on my side to gang up on them. That's not cool in my book. And I'm also not saying that about either of these people either. I'm just pointing out the discrepancies and the anomalies in what they were saying versus what they say that they believe in, and why it is that they felt like they had to pick on somebody else. All right, so this guy goes on. He says, I'm a paleontologist. I'm a geologist. I'm a field geologist. Yeah, me too. A paleontologist, like I said, whatever you do, that's what you are. You don't need a certificate or a diploma or whatever. Otherwise, if that's what you're bragging about, say that, right? Put it into words instead of saying I'm a paleontologist, but what you really are implying by extension is someone else approved me to be a paleontologist. That's what you should say, because that's more honest, right? I can say I'm a paleontologist. I've studied rocks. I've gone out there, been a rock hound, went looking for fossils and all kinds of stuff, digging into the dirt, seeing what I could find. I've found stuff. I've cracked it open. I've tested out my own stuff in my own way. And that makes me a paleontologist. I've studied the earth. I study the earth all of the time, every day, whenever I go outside. I've picked it apart. I've gone through it. I've gone through the tunnels. I've went searching and spelunking and all kinds of different things. I'm a geologist. I'm a field geologist. I'm all of those things too. And so are millions of other people who don't feel like they are because of academics who tell them that they're not, because they don't have their own or someone else's approval from the government, from academia, which comes from Akkad, or ancient Babylon. All right, let's see here. Oh, then he goes on to say, I'm not a charlatan. I didn't look at a rock and say it looks like a lung, referring to Roger. First of all, that doesn't make somebody a charlatan. Just because somebody sees something that you don't see doesn't mean that they're a charlatan. A charlatan is somebody who knows that it's not, but presents it like it is. Roger's not one of those people, okay? Roger believes sincerely and wholeheartedly in the things that he presents. At least I am convinced of this so far. All right, then they start to hypothesize about abrupt creation. Why not make the leap to abrupt petrification, right? If you can believe in spontaneous species just coming out of nowhere from the earth, why can't you make the leap of spontaneous petrification of organic material in the ancient world, right? Instead of slapping on 500 quadrillion billion, whatever, how many years, why not talk about the possibility of it happening instantaneously or suddenly or quickly? Then they talk about how cosmic radiation, which I call plasma, activates our brain and we become telepathic and use all of our brain. And they talk about Atlantis and mention Hyperborea, magik, telekenesis. And I was getting excited. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I love this kind of stuff, right? So couldn't the same or similar natural energies, which they say causes these things and allows them to come into fruition, couldn't that same energy suddenly petrify organic life or terraform the world or create the oceans? Let's see here. Then he goes on to talk about how this is the dumbing down of the human in the current age that we live in, which is why our brain capacity is so low and people want to play video games. Right? I tend to agree. I totally tend to agree. We're not very intelligent these days, collectively, right? I mean, I'm a part of all of it. I don't consider myself to be something special intelligently or whatnot. But wow, I do feel like I live in the movie Idiocracy quite often, or Don't Look Up. So he says, this is the dumbing down of the human, which is why our brain capacity is low and people want to just play video games. Then they immediately proceed to talk about video games for the next 3 minutes of the live stream. Like, forget all that important stuff. Someone mentioned video games? What? Oh, man. Oh, and they got super excited, which is cool, whatever. Like, I'll talk about video games too. You know, I play video games. But I just thought that was an interesting contradiction in events. All right. So, in conclusion, so far, right? I don't really conclude anything, but just to wrap this first part up, while I do not share Roger Spur's every single perspective and have expounded upon others and completely agree with others still yet, he has nearly 2,000 uploads where he has dedicated countless hours of personal research, presenting physical specimens, theories, ideas, beliefs, tests, synchronicities, anomalies, and more. His passion and enthusiasm loved and appreciated by many. He's taking care to explain elaborate scientific processes in layman's terms so that the non-academics of the world may feel included. He's been bold in standing up for himself and his presentations in the face of trolls, know-it-alls, mainstream academia, and others. And he's done it for years with style, kindness, and patience. So, check out Roger's channel at Mudfossil University, that channel on YouTube, and glean some insight into one of my own personal favorite subjects, mud fossils. All right, with that being said, let me go ahead and, since I've got the screen sharing up and it's been up forever, let me actually share some stuff here. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. What do we got in the chat? Hold on, let me jump into the chat first. Fa-pow, fa-pow, fa-pow. Oh, Cole. Hey, thanks, Cole. Oh, hold on. Can't have two of them up at the same time. Boom. So Cole Martin just donated his own money, thank you, and says, I found your channel today. I know that you're a kindred spirit. This past year, the Orion constellation has caught my eye every night, and I see it. And then you said you've noticed in your previous stream. Yeah, right? It looks like it's growing. It looks like it's getting closer to the Earth or something. It's crazy. All right, sweets. Thank you very much, Cole. Welcome to my channel as well. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about petrification, fossils, fossilization, etc., and so on and so forth. The old wives' tale, the lore, the mysteries of organic objects and inorganic objects changing their state and becoming rock, becoming stone. Let's take a look at it, right? Petrification. This is Wikipedia. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. Anyway, in geology, petrification. I already read that, right? So let's look at these three different types of petrification. We've got permineralization. One of the processes involved in petrification is permineralization. The fossils created through this process tend to contain large amounts of the original material of the specimen. This process occurs when groundwater containing dissolved materials fills the pore spaces and cavities of the specimens, particularly bone, shell, or wood. The pores of organisms' tissues are filled when these minerals precipitate out of the water. Two common types of permineralization are silicification and pyritization. All right, so that's one type, permineralization. Let me explain that in regular people talk. It just means that if something is laying around in a mineralized environment for a very long time, and it's helpful if the air supply is cut off to it so that it doesn't decompose, then those minerals seep into all the little tiny spaces in the skin and the bones and everywhere else, and they make a home. And they group up together until that subject essentially becomes rock. The next one, silicification. Comes from the word silica, I believe. Silicification is the process in which organic matter becomes saturated with silica. A common source of silica is volcanic material. Let's see. Studies have shown that in this process, most of the original organic matter is destroyed. Well, that's interesting. A common source of silica is volcanic material. Studies have shown that in this process, most of the original organic... Wow, that's interesting. Most of the organic... Okay. Silicification most often occurs in two environments. Either the specimen is buried in sediments of deltas and floodplains, or organisms are buried in volcanic ash. Water must be present for silicification to occur, because it reduces the amount of oxygen present and therefore reduces the deterioration of the organism by fungi, maintains organism shape, and allows for the transportation of deposition of silica. The process begins when a specimen is permeated with an aqueous silica solution. So the cell walls of the specimen, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't want to read too much more of that just because I can't stand scientific language. I wish it would all just have layman's terms and translate right underneath it. Plus, I have to translate it too. All right, so essentially, a good example of this, I believe, would be Mother Shipton's well, right, in the UK. If you've ever heard of Mother Shipton, I have like a little poem that I do during our intermission where I read a prophecy from Mother Shipton. There's a well in the UK called Mother Shipton's well, and people go there and they hang ordinary objects off of the edge. There's water that kind of goes down and makes like a little waterfall over this cave, and that water is so mineralized that you can hang a teddy bear and allow the little waterfall to just cover it for like 3 months. Come back in 3 months and your teddy bear is rock. You could put anything, that bicycles, all kinds of different stuff that people just put on that well, on that little area, and it becomes petrified. I believe that that's probably a good example of silicification. Then we've got pyritization. I don't really want to read all these because they're kind of boring me at this particular minute. But all you need to know is that's 3 different ways that something can become petrified. I believe that there are more ways than that. These are just the main 3 ways that are acknowledged in mainstream academics, I suppose. Then we've got rapid petrification. Here's an article that says, how long does it take to petrify wood? Not long. Public service officials have reported instant petrified wood resulting from lightning strikes. It amazed the chainsaw operators who tried to remove the stricken tree. Loggers were also responsible for other instant petrified wood. They accidentally felled a tree across a high voltage line. The power discharged into the ground, producing intense heat, melting the ground. A tree sucked the molten material into its roots, producing instant petrified wood. The University of Arizona has developed and patented a process to produce rapid petrification of wood, etc., and so on and so forth. They plan to produce petrified fence posts. Interesting. All right, so that one's interesting because of the lightning, right? Electricity is something that I believe has the capacity and potential to petrify instantaneously, depending on the type of ions, and the ionic bonding, which I'm going to get into here in just a minute. First, I want to check the chat because I don't have it pulled up right now. Jelton Inc. says they're kind of boring me. Yes, they do. I don't like reading textbooks, okay? I don't. It's boring stuff. And I don't appreciate the language that they use. Like, most people don't speak that way. I can interpret it, you know what I mean? But I don't want to do that on my YouTube channel. The whole world's watching. Like, I'm not really speaking to academics or anything, so nah, let's not do that, right? All right. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We've been talking for a bit. I feel like we're coming to the middle part here, so I'd like to take a quick break, allow you all to grab something to drink. I'm going to get a refill of mine, maybe use the bathroom real quick, and we'll come back, and I'll talk to you about my ideas of how electricity can petrify, and how electricity in the form of huge plasma columns that come down and ground themselves to our world during the plasma apocalypse could be responsible for instant petrification across the world. All right, so I'll see you guys in just a minute. Enjoy Mother Shipton's rhyme here as you take your break. See you in a bit.
Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as the twinkling of an eye, and waters shall great wonders do. How strange, and yet it shall come true. Beneath the water men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall even talk, and in the air men shall be seen in white and black and even green. For in those wondrous far-off days the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair. They'll ride astride with brazen brow as witches do. On broomsticks now there'll be a sign for all to see. Be sure that it will certain be. Then love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, as wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Pictures alive with movements free, boats like fishes beneath the sea. When men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. For those who live this century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. For storm will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. Fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be, for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur will serve the gods their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee king, lord, and serf. And men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount the shore, and lands will crack and rend anew. You think it's strange, it will come true. And in some far off distant land, some men, oh such a tiny band, will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count. And those surviving this will then begin the human race again. But not on land already there, but on ocean beds stark, dry, and bare. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many years. But time erases memory. You think it's strange, but it will be. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spew out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth now grown cold from its heat. And these men can enlighten the minds of future man to intermingle and show them how to live and love, and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing, so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew.
Okay, we're back. Let's see, where are we? Oh, hey, what's up, everyone? I am DreamerZ. Welcome to my channel. We're talking about petrification, specifically petrification of organic material, otherwise known as life. Can life be petrified? Can something that was once living, like, I don't know, a tree, be petrified? Yes, of course it can. So if a tree can be petrified, can a human be petrified? We've talked about that and the works and studies and examples and evidence of Girolamo Segato. And we're going to continue talking about another way that I believe biology can become petrified, through electricity. All right, so I'm going to give you a little mini course here. Calcium in the body. Let me get over here. Let's see, calcium in the body. All right, check this out. So our bodies are inundated with calcium. There's calcium all throughout our bodies. What happens is calcium is stored within our bones. And then when our bones get a signal, which is electricity from the brain, saying that the blood is running out of calcium, it releases calcium into the plasma within your blood. Okay. Calcium is what makes salt, bones, things like that. I don't know. Like I might mess up on some of this information, so just take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, see what I did? All right, so calcium ions are normally, calcium is just written as Ca. That's the abbreviation. A calcium ion, when you see the word ion, you could also replace that with plasma, okay? A calcium ion or plasma is calcium that has lost 2 electrons, okay? So imagine this. Your body is full of calcium, which is metal, just so you know, okay? It's not even rock. It's like basically metal, technically. All that needs to happen for that calcium to harden from plasma, from an ion state, and go back to being a hardened state of calcium, is it needs to have those 2 electrons back. That's it. So if electrons inundate the human body, or electricity inundates the human body, right? Depending on the type and other factors, it could possibly replace those 2 electrons that were lost and solidify that plasma. Plasma, I believe, is the first element, okay? Not the 5th element or anything. I believe it's the first one. It's spirit, it's sentient, it's whatever you like to call it, but whatever. It's electricity, all kinds of amazing things. So all you need to know is calcium is all throughout your body. It's necessary, it's needed, and it's an important part of allowing you to think. Calcium is a crucial part of how a synapse works in the brain. Calcium is needed in order to transfer information within the brain. At least it's one of the elements that is needed. All right, what else? Let's see here. Measurement in blood. Did I have anything highlighted with calcium? Let's see. Major boring stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Calcium. Okay, so anyways, that's all you really need to know. There's a lot of calcium in your blood, in your body. It comes from your bones. Your bones can release the calcium, etc., and so on and so forth. I think that the bones are sort of like batteries like for the body, but that's just me. Now, check this out. As far as petrification of the human body, of flesh, of tissue, right, crisped on land, as Mother Shipton was saying, there is a condition or a disease called fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. What does that mean? Well, here's a picture of it right here above me. That means that the body can be tricked into your skin turning into bone. Believe it or not, right? Which is petrification, essentially. It turns into rock, turns into bone, it becomes hardened. However you'd like to say that. Now it says that this disease is caused by a mutation of the genes. Now, these same people were talking earlier on their live stream about how they believe that mutations can exist because of cosmic space rays or whatever, right? I also believe something similar, that mutations quickly happen and that the plasma that comes down into our world is responsible for activating DNA, changing DNA, or rearranging it to different structures, just like in the movie The Fly, right? Where he creates those little pods of electricity, and then the pod it tries to perfect the different types of DNA because it sees it as all garbage. Very similar. So, mutation of the gene, and it says the gene right there, ACVR1, whatever that is. The mutation affects the body's repair mechanism, causing fibrous tissue, including muscle, tendons, and ligaments, to become ossified. That means turns into bone, either spontaneously or when damaged as the result of trauma. Ooh, interesting. Like, I don't know, electrical shock trauma, possibly? Possibly. All right, so is it possible for the human body to just turn into stone or bone or calcium or salt like Lot's wife in the Bible? Yes, it is. It's very possible. It's not just possible, but there's evidence right here and proof if we just simply look into it, right? All right, moving forward, let's talk about, let's see, ionic bonding, okay? So we're getting a little bit more into the intellectual scientific world, I guess, but whatever. Ionic bonds. Okay, let me tell you what ionic bonds are in my own words first, okay? We talked about ions, which is plasma, right? Plasma that has specifically, usually, lost electrons, right? But whenever whenever they're smashed into or come into close proximity to something that is non-metallic, they can borrow the needed electrons and fuse to it, right? Ionic bonding. Basically, the plasma can fuse to something else to become something else. That's my own way of saying it. Ionic bonds are formed between... Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm not muted. That would suck. That does happen sometimes. Stephen Brown says I should team up with Roger. I don't really do teams. You know what I mean? I'm not a team kind of person. Like, I believe teams are something that just happen naturally, you know? Kinfolk, family, whatever you want to call it. I think that's stuff that happens from the heart. It's not a decision that we make. It just happens from the heart. Like this video is sort of teamwork, I guess you could say, or I like to consider it to be that. All right, back to ionic bonding. Ionic bonds are formed between two or more atoms by the transfer of one or more electrons between atoms. Electron transfer produces negative ions called anions and positive ions called cations. Ionic substances exist as crystalline solids. Sodium chloride is an example of an ionic solid. Sodium chloride, salt. So, Lot's wife in the Bible said that it says that she turned into a pillar of salt, a rock, essentially, a rock pillar. And there are various rocks and boulders, or whatever you want to call them, standing stones, across the world known as menhir, or men who have changed into rock. This is something that is not only possible, not only fantastic, not just existing within the realms of lore and mythology and legend, but it's real and it's scientifically possible if you look into it. All right, so people ask, do ionic bonds make solids? On a macroscopic scale, ionic compounds such as sodium chloride form a crystalline lattice and are solids at normal temperatures and pressures. What does this mean? This means that if you have strong enough of an electrical current in introducing more electrons into the body will naturally, the calcium that's in your body and other elements will naturally create ionic bonds, which will solidify and tighten and basically turn people into rock. Very much possible. All right, anyways, so that's ionic bonding. Now, I asked the question about chloride in the body. Chloride is the most common anion in the body and is primarily found in the extracellular blood compartment called serum or plasma. Chloride with sodium, potassium, and bicarbonate regulates water distribution, osmotic pressure, pH, and ion balance in the extracellular compartment of blood. What does this mean? That means that the ingredient necessary in order to make salt, like Lot's wife turned into, biblically speaking, when the fires of God rained down on the towns of Sodom and Gomorrah, ionically bonded her body, creating a rock in place, creating a human statue, okay? And that's just one example. There's so many across time, but, I just want to use the biblical example. So, chloride is already in the body. It's the most common anion that is in the body. Let's find out more. Would you like to know more? Let's see. What is calcium chloride? Calcium chloride is a salt made up of one calcium molecule for every 2 molecules of chlorine. Is that what I was looking for? Yeah, just that it's a salt, I guess. Anyways. What else do we got? Oh! So, I speculate that the plasma that exists outside of our world in the plasma sphere around and surrounding our world, that it is hydrogen ions, that is ionized hydrogen for the most part. There's probably other elements as well, but for the most part, I believe it's ionized hydrogen. When the electromagnetic field of our world disappears, that ionized hydrogen, which typically turns like magenta, sort of along the red spectrum, turns into light. You literally see neon plasmic lights in the sky that come down into our world as fiery red dragons or whatnot, and they seek other electricity and electrical components to bond with, or the ground to ground with. And that's where we get the plasma apocalypse from. So if it's true that most of that, the majority of the ions and the plasma outside of our world is comprised of hydrogen, then let's see what happens when hydrogen encompasses our bodies or biological life forms or whatever that is full of chloride and these other elements that we've been discussing. What happens when they bond, essentially, right? And is it possible that they can bond? The hydrogen anion, H negative, I guess is how you say that, is a negative ion of hydrogen. That is a hydrogen atom that has captured an extra electron. So it's got an extra electron to just give, right? And we already talked about how chloride in the body, or calcium specifically, calcium in the body, when it's an ion, it loses electrons. So in order to solidify, it needs to gain more electrons. Well, here you have the heavens opening up and an abundance of extra negatively charged electrons introducing themselves into the world and surrounding people and plants and animals and whatnot. Let's see here. What else do we got? Now, let's see if there is hydrogen up there in the ionosphere or the plasmasphere. H minus, which is the one that we're talking about, the hydrogen ion, also occurs in the Earth's ionosphere and can be produced in particle accelerators. Isn't that something? They're producing negatively charged hydrogen ions in particle accelerators, and it's also up there naturally outside of our sky, in the upper portions of our vaulted sky. Let's see here. So we talked about hydrogen. We talked about ionic bonding and how chemicals that exist within the body can easily be transformed through magic, or whatever you want to call it, right? Chemistry or whatever. So let's check out my website. This is jdreamers.com. This is the section under Mudfossils, and I hope it's cool with Roger. I don't know if we've spoken about it or not, but he made a publicly available document of his DNA test results. He had actually taken rocks that he believes are mud fossils, like his rock lung or whatever, and had them DNA tested. If that's not science, what is science? Right? I mean, what is this process that you're talking about? If you literally think that something used to be biological, that it's now a rock, and you take it to the experts to have it tested on the DNA genetic level, and the test results come back affirmative. Yes, the test results came back. You can see it here if you want to go over it on my channel. Positive, 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 positive. It's all came back positive for human DNA. Now, does that mean that whatever it is a lung? No, it doesn't mean that. But it does mean, according to this test, that there was human DNA found within these samples. Where did the DNA come from? I don't know. But if you want to check out this DNA test that Roger has done on these rocks and mud fossil samples, go to my website or go to his website or go to his channel and check it out. Download it, copy it, whatever you like to do. Speaking of my website, this is my website. I'm going to be working on updating it here in the near future. This is sort of has the old logos and stuff, but we've got elves, a new section on werewolves under the elf section or the elven section, titans, the titan galleries, many of my own videos that I've done about titans and elves, mud fossils, as well as images as well. So if you click here, you'll be able to see all these different amazing examples. And they're just examples. It doesn't mean that these are all fact. It doesn't mean that. Sometimes it's pareidolia. Sometimes it just looks like something, but not every time. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. For example, this one right here. See that one with me? Can you see that? That's me standing on what appears to be the buried toes of a huge giant, right? When in reality, that's cement. Like that's at a park. Now, does that mean that just because that's cement and that's not real toes of a real giant, that giants didn't exist and didn't sink into the earth during the liquefaction stage of the plasma apocalypse? No, It doesn't. We don't discount everything just because we've discounted something. All right, so that's my website. Feel free to check it out. I also have stuff on the plasma apocalypse in there, a whole section. It's pretty fun. I'm working on adding my merch stuff, so some stuff is, Oh, and the esoteric library is sweet, too. I have like over 10,000 manuscripts and documents and books and ancient maps and all kinds of stuff in my own library on my website. Let's see. So let's get rid of my website here. Let's talk about Petrified Wood. So this one guy, the academic on on that live stream that we were talking about, he was talking about how like we know that something's petrified because we take it and we cut it into tiny slivers and we can see the cells right there and we could see that it used to be biological. So let's check that out. Let's examine that. Let's look closer. Scientists, hold on. What website is this? This is from lifeoplant.blogspot.com. It goes on to say scientists choose pieces that exhibit an intact cell structure. What does that mean? That means that they're only confirming the ones where the cell structure is intact. If you read the ancient myths and legends and lore about these beings and giants and trolls and whatnot that were instantly petrified, they didn't all just turn into statues. Many of them blew up, right? Down to the cellular structure expanded so much that it destroyed the evidence that they used to be of biologic origin down to the cellular level. So whenever they say, well, we know because we can cut it open and we can look at the cells, scientists choose pieces that exhibit an intact cell structure, which means the ones that do not, the ones that have been blown up or the ones that have been disfigured so much, they can't say whether or not it's actually a fossil or whether or not it actually used to be biological or biologic in origin, right? Let's see. I was going to also show something else here. Where was it? Three types of petrified wood are found in the tertiary strata. Nondescript. Oh, here we go. Nondescript silicified wood has undergone silicification, but still appears to be woody structurally. So when they say nondescript, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems to me like that means the ones that they can't tell if it has cellular structure or not. But they say it's still undergone silicification. They still put their stamp of approval on it. It's difficult to identify because of its genetic structure. Nondescript silicified wood requires expert authentication for accurate labeling. You see that? Expert. Well, who's an expert, right? The ones that they approve of. The ones that have the, the medal from the Wizard of Oz. Those are the experts, right? So you and I can't be experts according to this, essentially, because we're not approved by the others who have gone through the system or whatever. Hey, I say you can be an expert. I definitely think many people who've been looking at them for so long can become experts, that they can teach themselves, that it is possible to teach yourself something instead of just having other people tell you what to think. Here's another example. Animals being petrified. Still life photos of petrified animals at Lake Natron. Check this out. These animals were found just washed up in the lake. I'm going to show you a few examples here. And this photographer found them instantly petrified, perfectly preserved because of the lake and the chemical composition of the lake. Here's a bat that's been petrified. Here's a bird that's been petrified. Here's an eagle, I think, whatever that is, that's been petrified. Did you know the eagle is in the vulture family? That's interesting, right? The bald eagle is a vulture, technically. Here's another one that's been petrified. So what happens, these animals get close to this water and they die, whatever it be, from the fumes. I don't know. I don't know the whole story behind it, but what I do know is there's petrified animals right there. And it didn't take billions of jillions of quillions of years. It was pretty fast. It happens pretty quickly and naturally. Nature can do this to people and to plants and to animals and to other things. How about bacteria? I heard that same guy talk about how, basically he was implying that like, it's not really possible for humans or animals or whatever to become petrified because of all the bacteria that exists in our stomachs, and stuff like that, because it will eat it away, won't allow it to petrify. Well, there's petrified bacteria in the fossil record. Here's a website about it. Here's a picture here. It may seem surprising that bacteria can leave fossils at all. However, one particular group of bacteria, the cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, have left a fossil record that extends far back into the Precambrian. Whatever, I don't believe in Precambrian, but whatever. My point is, bacteria can be petrified. The stomachs can be petrified. They've cracked open fossils and found in their stomachs stuff that was still being digested, petrified. So all of this stuff that people say is not possible and never exists and never will exist and there's no record of it, I feel like it would be better and more accurate to say I haven't found any evidence of that personally in my walk in life thus far. What else we got? Let's see here. Oh, that's right. So on another video, it's totally a different video on the same channel. I just wanted to go check out his channel, and that's when he was slamming on ancient cosmology, the giant petrified ancient tree stumps and stuff, from the No Forest videos or whatever. They had a huge problem that people were looking into that people were studying it and researching it and believing in it or whatever. Oh well, it's so sad that, people don't just agree with all of academia, and then academia gets all pissed off and holier than thou and shuns others and, raises their nose up at people. I can't stand that. Like, people are going to have different perspectives, different experiences. The ancient Native Americans talked about this structure, and they came up with a story to try to explain how it was created. Now, some people will say that this is an ancient tree because it looks like a tree stump, and I agree. It totally does look like a tree stump. I don't agree that it is an ancient tree. I do believe that there were huge ancient trees that existed, but I don't believe that every single mesa is automatically by default an ancient tree stump. I do believe that they exist though. So let's check this out, because they were talking about how this is columnar, columnal. I forgot the word for it. What was it? Where is it? Columnar basalt. I forgot what it's called basically, but what academics says is that the Devil's Tower is the inside plug of where a volcano used to be. And the volcano eroded away and left the plug. Like, oh my God. Okay, whatever. Right on, academics. Let's see what the Native American says. Let's see what they actually tell the story about. It says that there are two great legends regarding the tower, the Devil's Tower, and the unusual looking columns that bear striking resemblance to claw marks. It's no surprise that both the stories from the Lakota Sioux and the Kiowa involve similar narrative. In the Lakota Sioux legend, 6 girls were out picking flowers when they were attacked and chased by bears. The Great Spirit felt bad for them and raised the ground beneath their feet. The bears gave close chase and attempted to climb the newly formed tower, but they couldn't get to the top. The bears fell off, clawing the sides of the monolith. And there you have a picture of the bear. So, according to the Sioux legend, the ground all by itself, through natural causes or God or whatever, raised straight up into the air, just lifted up into the air. Wow, isn't that something? That sounds ridiculous to academics. Academics will say, oh, that can't happen. Mountains are created over quadrillions of years, right? Mountains don't just shoot up into the air in the matter of seconds or whatever. Ancient legends say otherwise. Let's see here. Let's look at another story. The Kiowa legend follows a similar storyline but includes astrology as well. 7 little Kiowa girls were out playing, spotted by several giant bears, and they were chased. The girls prayed to the Great Spirit. And sure enough, the ground rose beneath them towards the heavens. The bears tried to climb the rock, but only managed to leave their deep claw marks on the sides. The girls reached the sky and were turned into the constellation, the Pleiades, or the Plagiares, which means of the waters. Anyways, isn't that something? So the ancient Native American myth, right, the legend, says that the ground shot up into the air all by itself. Interesting. How is that possible? Well, during the plasma apocalypse, I'm just going to give you one theory, okay? One theory is that instead of tectonic plates creating whatever and pushing and creating jagged mountains over quadrillions of years, and instead of the plug of the volcano being eroded over, the volcano is eroded and just disappears over time or whatever. That's so dumb. Oh my God. What could happen is that during the plasma apocalypse, our entire Earth shakes, which causes the ground to become muddy and liquefied. And then the highly charged, negatively charged ions that we talked about earlier from the upper atmosphere come down to ground themselves to the Earth. They electrically shock the dirt. They shock the mud. That mud develops an attraction to the ions above, and it goes up towards it. It's pulled up from above into the sky. Whenever it makes contact, it becomes petrified through ionic bonding, like we already talked about. Anyway, that's one of my theories. That's a theory, I should say. What else do we got? Oh, then on this video I watched, they were trying to discredit ancient cosmology because they believe that, in a different shape of the world. Hey, which is totally fine. Whatever. I've believed in all kinds of different shapes. I don't even believe in any one particular shape at all. I think it's all connected. But just let me show you. These are the civilizations whose backs and shoulders we stand upon, whose academics, our academics, was developed from these people. And this was their concept and their cosmology about where we live locally in the world. Some people even said that they spoke to the gods, and the gods themselves, angels, whatever you want to call them, aliens, doesn't matter, took them way up into the sky and showed them the world personally, took them down into the earth and showed them what it was made of. Now, this is, I want to read a quote here, and then I'm going to jump into the chat because I haven't been in the chat for a minute. I want to read a quote from The Creation of the World, Metamorphoses by Ovid, written in 1 ACE. So that's during the plasma apocalypse, basically, the first year. Now, he says right here in the opening, let me make this bigger. Of bodies changed to various forms I sing. Actually, I feel like this deserves a Scottish kind of Irish Gaelic accent. Of bodies changed to various forms I sing, ye gods from whom these miracles did spring, inspire my numbers with celestial heat, till I my long laborious work complete. All right, that was terrible. It's hard to understand. Anyways, basically, Ovid is talking about how bodies on the earth of various forms, animals, people, giants, etc., plants, whatever, changed during some sort of an event that took place. Now, I did a search for mud, just out of curiosity. And we get some passages like this. By slow degrees into their channels crawl, and earth increases as the waters fall. In longer time the tops of trees appear, which mud on their dishonored branches bear. Interesting passage. Let's see what else we got with mud. The captive cow he summoned with the call and drove back and tied her to the stall. On leaves of trees and bitter herbs she fed. Heaven was her canopy, bare earth her bed. So hardly lodged, and to digest her food, she drank from troubled streams defiled with mud. Her woeful story fain she would have told with hands upheld, but had no hands to hold. Okay. There was another one too, somewhere in here. Oh, this one. Okay, I like this part. Check this out. So this is from Ovid, Metamorphoses. For heat and moisture when in bodies joined, the temper that results from either kind, conception makes and fighting till they mix. Their mangled atoms in each other fix. Now, I want you to consider ionic bonding, how we were talking about earlier when I read this. I'm going to read it over again and imagine that this person, maybe they know about ionic bonding, maybe they don't, or electricity or whatever. So imagine this is talking, just let's wonder for a minute. Okay, let's speculate that this is actually talking about ionic bonding over 2,000 years ago-ish, right? Whatever. For heat and moisture when in bodies joined, the temper that results from either kind, conception makes, and fighting till they mix, their mangled atoms in each other fix. Their mingled atoms in each other fix, thus nature's hand the genial bed prepares, with friendly discord and with fruitful wars. From hence the surface of the ground with mud and slime besmeared the faces of the flood, received the rays of heaven, and sucking in the seeds of heat, new creatures did begin. That lines up perfectly with what they were saying on their own live stream about how suddenly creatures just appeared out of nowhere. I guess that was all of my screen sharing. All right, so let's see here. Fapal, let's get rid of that. Boom. Okay, cool. Let me jump back into the chat. Where did I put the chat? Wow, the chat's going super fast. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation, okay? None of my presentation was meant in malice to put people down at all, but just to point out the oxymoron that exists and the contradictions that exist between academics who feel like they're the professionals and they're the experts and they're the only ones who have a say-so on telling you what to believe, that we can't believe things for ourselves, that we can't look and research independently and investigate things for ourselves and come to our own conclusions or come up with our own theories or ideas on life. I support that. And I support all of you sharing whatever your wonderful ideas are. I might not agree, right, with every, idea out there. I'm not going to. I have my own path. And as I walk on that path, I can only reach so far to make connections. And that's my path. And others have their paths. However, I don't support bullying. I don't support putting people down and insulting them and making them feel less human or like they are of less value or less worth. Calling them charlatans and stuff like that was too much. I don't agree with that. You're free to do what you like to do, because I believe in the law of the land. You can do whatever you like, and others may do what they like. That is the beauty of life. You get to choose how you respond. You get to choose how you react. You get to put your feet in front of each other and walk in whatever direction you want to. We got Cheech McDuck. What's up, Cheech McDuck? Says, DreamerZ, please stop with the accent. It's terrible. I know. I know. I love it, though. Gasper Canoni says, DreamerZ, so you speak, it should be the same thing as electrolysis. Yeah, totally. Electrolysis. Boom. Good point. Yeah, so basically it's very similar, if not the same exact thing as electrolysis. Good point. I don't know. Anybody else? Anybody else in the chat? Let's see. Let me go back and see if I missed some stuff. Dennis is in the chat and says, hey, Jay, do you know an evil leprechaun type spirit that loves to pull pranks and do crazy mischievous stuff when it possesses people? I was possessed by that it wanted to make me go insane from laughing. Yes, there's actually something, a part of the plasma apocalypse is what I call the laughing plague. And that's when nitrous oxide is created and released in massive clouds that float about our world and cause people to laugh uncontrollably. What else? Sylvia Mendoza says, much love, Jay, precious brother and family. Much love right back to you, Sylvia. Good to see you. Rocky Salvatore says, you would love wild krats. I've never heard of that. Rue says, I thought those toes were real at first. Remember, Jay? Oh, that's right. Speaking of toes, I wanted to share some mud fossils. Cypher No One, what's up, dude? Says, DreamerZ, in the movie Idiocracy, they hint that the world switched from water to Brondo for electrolytes. This might be to prevent calcification. Ooh, interesting. I like where you're going with that. All right, let's do some screen sharing real quick. I would like to share some images with you. So we're talking about mud fossils. Many people are probably like, well, what does it look like, you know? Well, here are some examples. Now, the examples I'm going to show you are things that appear to me to resemble organic life or something other than just being a rock. I can't prove it. I can't show you. However, there's such an overwhelming amount of weight and to just all of the different examples that it tells me that there's something worth looking into. For me personally, it's worth looking into. For others, it might not be worth looking into, but I'm going to show you some examples regardless. And not irregardless. What's up, Sheepdog? I see you. Anthony Michael Kerr says, love you, Jay. Everyone rocks like mud fossils. We all rock. I totally agree. I think that's why they use that term, actually, rock, and how it's associated with like the devil or the plasma from above turning people into rocks, etc. Let's check out some mud fossil examples here. Let me get those pulled up. There we go. All right, so these are from my own personal collection. As you can see, we've got mud fossils that look like feet. This one totally looks like it's just the foot of a giant. The trees. Let's talk about the trees. The petrified trees. Everyone accepts that those trees are petrified. People aren't like, oh, I want to see the DNA. I want to see the cellular structure. You know, sometimes a tree that's rock looks like it used to be a tree, and we accept it at face value. So why can't we do that with other things, right? I don't know. It's your own personal preference, I suppose. But why would this foot just snap off? I've seen many of these petrified, huge, gigantic feet. I've got images of many of them. Why do they snap off? Well, for the same reason that the trees do. The trees grow in these different layers, right? In these different strata. If you look it up, you can see a palm tree is a great example. You can see the lines that go across on the palm tree. And when it becomes petrified, those weak points break off, especially if it's something tall and weighty and standing up, and now it weighs even more because it's made of rock. So for the same reasons, these things petrify and break off, sometimes exploding, sometimes bursting into pieces, sometimes not. And you have to remember as well, if we include the plasma apocalypse, there's a tempest and a short time of zero gravity where these things can be redistributed throughout the world. Here's what looks like some dude laying down taking a nap there. Some alien looking giant titan dude. Giants are so real to me, man. Like to me, like, it's like, dude, clearly something made a footprint right there. That's not fake. Okay. There's a million different of these footprints from gigantic beings all over the place. The weird thing is that they're sideways. They're vertical instead of being straight down. Not all of them, but these ones that I'm showing you are, right? Why is that? Remember that story we talked about where the Indians or the Native Americans were talking about how the land just shot up suddenly? The land can be pulled up, right? It can go from being horizontal to being pulled upwards and being vertical. That's why you have feet prints and tracks and stuff like that are going straight up. And people are like, I wonder how that happened. Let's see some of this. We've got different examples of different things. I'm just going to go through. Oh, this is some artwork that one of my subscribers, I can't remember who. It says right there, Oakley or something. I don't know, but he made this for my channel a long time ago, and it's so cool. So this is his, like, it's like some sort of an orc or something in the water turning into like mountains or whatever. It's really cool. So shout out. There's another foot on a vertical cliff there. There's what looks like a profile of a face, another one. Now, are all of these authentic? Are all of these actual? Could some of them have been fabricated, made up, or just done just to get attention? Yeah, absolutely. Totally can. But like I said, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't just say forget all of it because one or two of them might have been faked. You know what I mean? Nah. I like this one because it reminds me of the angels that fell, the fallen angels in the movie Noah in the remake with the dude from Gladiator. I forgot his name. But those angels are like plasma beings. They hit the ground and then they they bond with the earth. They become these like earth giant, rock giant things. Pretty cool. Here's some more examples. That one, remember Girolamo Sagato's petrified brain that I showed you? This is like a huge, gigantic, giant version of it. And remember, I said that whenever that high voltage hits an object from above, from the heavens, the fires of God or whatever, imagine that it hits a giant or a titan. Those are going to be during the red sky when we have giants and titans and stuff like that that are more common. What was I going to say? Whenever we have them, they're some of the first targets. Like they're way up there in the sky, so they're going to get hit first. Their bodies may blow up, so it's possible that you may see like a huge petrified brain or something like that, right? They become a part of the landscape quite often and disregarded. This is an actual picture in Hawaii. I did a video on this particular petrified titan, as I like to call it. You can see it from many different angles as well. That's something I like to do as I investigate scientifically. I like to pull up all of the different angles. If I could, I would totally go out and just visit, take samples, do all kinds of stuff. But while I'm here at home and poor, I can't afford to just buy airline tickets and globe trot right now. So I do what I can, right? So I've actually pulled up this angle in this area of Hawaii. This is an area where like parts of Jurassic Park were filmed and stuff. You can see this woman, or it looks like a female, sitting there on the side of the mountain from all angles. It's amazing. Here's some other examples. Here's a lake. This is in our folklore when we talk about Paul Bunyan or those other ones. I don't know. Casey Jones and all those other, American folklores where we have talked about giants and titans existing. They walk around and they leave their footprints of titans, which fill with water and become lakes. Wow. Dude was driving way fast through a residential neighborhood. Here's some more examples, possible skulls and things like that. Now, could it be erosion? Yes, of course, it totally could be. However, erosion tends to destroy things, not create things, right? So many of these things that I see looks like they're creations that are being destroyed by erosion. But I don't attribute every weird thing like the Garden of the Gods here in Colorado to erosion. That one kind of looked like it could be photoshopped, possibly. I'm not sure. Some of these could be, right? I try to keep the obvious ones out so that I don't dilute my own little collection here. That one's pretty cool. Oh, the elephant ones. Whew, man, remember how we talked about the elephants? Okay, so check this out. So in ancient legends and stories, they talk about elephants or mastodons or woolly mammoths, whatever you want to call them, as being basically alien to our surface of our world. Many of them, according to legends, come from within the earth, and they're gigantic. They're huge. If you think an elephant's big now, an elephant now is like a little mouse compared to an actual full-blown elephant the way that they originally were before entering into the pressurized world that we live in and increased gravitational pull, or whatever you'd like to call it. But yeah, gigantic petrified elephants, possibly. Interesting. Great examples. Sometimes you can it looks like skin or scales in different places as well. This is from Fontainebleau in France. I would love to go here. If I ever do globetrot, this is the first place I'm going to go, is to Fontainebleau. This forest is packed, chock full of mud fossils. They're amazing. Here's another one with a picture of an elephant down there for comparison. Here's some more. That dude just looks like he's walking. Like that just looks like a troll or something. I was like, oh crap, here comes the plasma. Bzz, get shocked. Let's see, here's some more elephants. Now, are these all creatures? I don't know. But I can tell you it's an interesting coinky-dink, and I don't believe in coincidence. Look at that guy. Look at that. You could almost see like an armpit, the shoulder muscles, the neck muscles, the face structure, the chest, the other arm. I mean, I could definitely see it there. This one looks like somebody's, sink down into the ground looking up. I see a lot of those too. Legends talk about how the titans of old, many of them sank. Sometimes it's because of the flood, the worldwide flood that came about when the waters we call the oceans were introduced. And also, you got to remember liquefaction, right? When the earth starts to shake that much, it creates quicksand worldwide, all over the place. And these huge, gigantic beings would naturally be so weighty that they would sink down into the earth itself to be eaten, essentially, by the earth. I like this little hedgehog-looking one. That one's pretty cool. It's just erosion. You just happen to erode a snout and 4 legs and whatever. Okay, possibly. Some people have overlaid images on top of these, just to give you an example, which I think's cool. Oh, this is like a hand. I see all kinds of body parts of titans or giants or whatever that looks like they've sunk down into the ground and they're trying to get up, right? And their body parts of their limbs and stuff are just sticking out of the ground, petrified for all time. Or until the next age, I should say. Here's some more. That one's cool. I like that one. That one looks like the Assassin's Creed dude. Then, of course, we've got our fiction. Man, I haven't even touched on fiction, right? All of our drawings and our fictitious, movies like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Fiction doesn't mean falsehood. Fiction does not equate to lies, in my opinion. I actually took this picture. This is at that giant park that I was telling you about up in Fort Collins in Colorado. It's a playground with the theme of a giant that has sunk down into the earth and petrified into rock. And children play on it. And most people can't even recognize the giant's parts. They just think it's just rocks. They just think it's a rock formation. But it was purposefully designed like that. Interesting, right? There's me standing on one of the body parts that was at this park, sunk down into the ground. Here's some other things. Look at these interesting formations. That's cool. Someone made that for me. When everyone stops believing, the nothing wins. This is an example of Lot's wife. Now, here's a cool anomaly. I like these stone anomalies, these rock anomalies that are all over the place, geological anomalies or geologic anomalies. Look at that. Perfect straight line. Now, people are like, how could that have been made, etc. What if it wasn't rock before? What if it was something else? What if it was clay or mud or something else, rose up out of the ground and then got cut in half by something, a laser from the sky, I don't know, whatever it may be, and then it petrified, and then it became this, right? Hey, I just got a donation from Autumn's Army. Thank you. That's pretty sweet. I like your picture too. Why isn't your picture coming up? That's weird. Tiffany's comes up. Autumn's Armory. My bad. Autumn's Armory. Oh, I forgot to change the GIFs. Oh, man. It's still set to the campfire episodes. Well, thank you, Autumn's Armory. God, you guys have... I'm humbled, and I'm very thankful. I just want to say that for the donations, okay? You guys don't have to give me your own money, and you do. And that tells me that, people find value in the things that I share. So they share the value with me, and I appreciate it. Thank you. It means a lot to me, and I put it to good use. Let's see. Here's one that looks like a little toad or frog or something. This is from Fontainebleau, like we talked about. They almost look like some sort of reptilian creatures. You could see the scales and stuff. This looks, on the bottom one looks like an iguana. I'm just saying, that's what it looks like. Top one looks like an elephant. That looks like bacon to me, but I mean, I don't know. This is an example of the blood from the rock. Now, is it blood? I don't know. Probably not. Not actual blood as we would think about it. However, there are legends that talk about bleeding rocks. Oh, these ones are interesting. So check this out. These are the jars. Where are these jars found? I forgot. Oh, this one looks like another giant that's trying to breathe, sticking his face up out of the earth so he doesn't sink and suffocate. This one also possibly could be. It's these things have survived into our fantasy, right? This is where our movies come from. They come from the truth. They come from our ancient oblivion. They came from a past that we have forgotten all about. We have collective amnesia about the way the world once was. There's a Dumbo just sitting there petrified. There's the dude trying to breathe again. This one's cool. Look at that. Doesn't that just look like a freaking giant head? An alien head? Petrified? That's in Fontainebleau. This is, I like to call this one Thanos. Like he's just sitting in his chair on the side of the mountain watching. He's got like a good seat for the end of the world, basically. He's like, all right, I can't escape it. I'm just going to chill here and allow it to take me. That's like the rock biter, actually. Interesting. There's another one from Fontainebleau. Like I said, it's chock full of them. Here's what looks like a foot broken off at just above the ankle area. Here's another foot. This one's in Thailand, I believe. Some feet prints. Oh, like I said, it makes its way into our mainstream, into our movies, our television shows. These are where those ideas come from. They come from reality, right? There's nothing new under the sun. In the Rogue One movie, they don't even point it out. They don't even say, oh, did you guys notice that some of the mountains are like petrified giant Jedis? Huge Titan gods that once existed on this world? No, they don't point it out. They just put it in there as a little breadcrumb. And imagine how much time it took to put this into the movie. And then they don't even point it out. Like, whoa, check. Oh my God, what's that? Oh, well, the legend says, they don't even talk about it. They just put it in there for you, a little breadcrumb. And then sometimes we can look at the rocks, and it's almost like the rocks look right back at us. We can learn a lot about ourselves from examining our world. Here's a petrified hand, one of Girolamo Segato's exhibits. Boom. Somebody overlaid a picture of a woman there. Oh, the jars. Oh, where do the jars come from? I can't remember. Somewhere in like the island areas, like under, dang, where's that area? Philippines or I can't remember. Anyways, there's these giant jars, megalithic jars. People can look at that and they can say, wow, you know what? That looks like a jar. I don't even need to see slices and cellular structures of what type of material it was made out of or anything. I don't need that. You can keep that. That's a jar. Like, I know what that is. That's some sort of a vessel that was shaped and then petrified into rock. And there's hundreds of these things. There's like, God, I can't remember, but it's like a whole field of these things are just strewn about. And people wonder and speculate what they were used for. The field of jars or something like that. I forgot what it was called or referred to as. So people used to think, or some people speculate that like, the royalty in this particular region of the world created these so that they could be like buried in them or something. I don't know about that. They look like jars that were used like cups or whatever. I don't know, storages of some kind for gigantic beings. And they are now petrified, right? It's not like these were just random boulders and the people all decided to just randomly chisel them into these jar shapes. I mean, it's possible, but they don't look like that. Look at all these. They just stretch all the way across the countryside. Crazy. During the plasma apocalypse, the wind will just throw things all across the world. This one has a lid on it. Look at the lid. There's a man, or what looks like a man shape, with these concentric rings around it on the top. Interesting. The field of jars, I forgot what it's called, but they're all over the place. They're petrified. It's a tourist attraction. I would be careful if you ever go out there for like landmines and stuff. But people go out there. They take pictures inside of them. Look at that. This is definitely used to store something. And they definitely look like they've been strewn about. Or possibly even sank partially into the ground. Look at all that. But these are a great example of petrification, right? Boom. Here's more. Oh, this is my most watched video, or this is another perspective from that exact same video. Some people are like, "Oh, that video is faked," because I have a picture of the Titan chick in the mountainside. Looks like she's sleeping like Moana. Here she is again from another angle. You can see her shoulder, arm, hand going up underneath the chin, the cheek, the lips, the nose, the eyes, the head, maybe a headdress, maybe just a domed head, I don't know. But there are various angles that you can see this from. There's another one right there. Same person. This is at Maya Bay. I think it's in Thailand, right? Now check this out. After I did this video speculating that Maya Bay is made out of fossilized petrified Titan bodies, they shut down Maya Bay. I swear, like the video had like only been out for a couple of months and the government shut down this entire area. I just superimposed, a little person right there so you can get the idea. Then I drew a picture over on top of it. Now these are not technically like fossils, I guess you could say. This is from Pompeii, right? The people, and that's another way that you can be petrified too, is in pyroclastic flows and stuff like that. But here's the people of Pompeii. On the inside, allegedly their bodies rotted out and they'd filled the bodies with cement, which is kind of morbid, but whatever. So if you take this as an example of the ancient titans and giants that were petrified through ionic bonding or otherwise during the plasma apocalypse, and then you add a few years to allow life to grow on top of them as they become a part of the earth, it looks more like that. And people don't recognize that. They only see that. I put a little boat down there. Moana, right? These deep truths of the movies reflect reality. Here's the dude laying down, petrified, becoming a part of the world. Oh, and then we've got the mushrooms. The Mushroom Kingdom. I did this video called The Mushroom Kingdom where I show you all of what I believe are petrified gigantic mushrooms. I believe that the conditions arise in our world after the plasma apocalypse for funguses to grow, and because everything grows to gigantic proportions, the mushrooms grow gigantic. And I believe that that's one of the things that the giants used to eat, and that we also used to eat, and that we, remaining in our stature, right, those of us who have gone past puberty, we essentially remain the same height, comparatively speaking, to those born into that world under those new conditions. And that's where you get like the story of the Smurfs and stuff, where these tiny little beings live inside of little mushroom houses and whatnot. Here's a picture of a regular mushroom, what it looks like. Here's a picture of people underneath a gigantic petrified mushroom. Boom. I don't need to see slices of it. I don't need to see it under a microscope. Look at this one. You see at the bottom how it's got that tiny little stalk thing growing off on the side? It's even replicated in the gigantic version. Watch. So here's the original one. You see how it's got the stalk, the underneath part, the cap. Every part of a mushroom is perfectly preserved and petrified here. How else do you explain this? Oh, well, because a long time there was rivers and erosion over millions of years. No, man, like, I hear you, and that's fine if you want to believe that, but that's a mushroom. That is a petrified, gigantic mushroom, which explains the myths in video games and stuff like Mario Brothers, right? Where these guys are going throughout this mushroom kingdom, and they eat the mushrooms and they grow big and they shrink and all this stuff. It just reflects our world, essentially. Also, it's represented in Alice in Wonderland. The mushroom is also a symbol for our world, I believe. Our world is very similar to this, like the dome of the top of the cap. And then you've got the roots underneath, the columns under the earth and whatnot. One side, the inside of our world, within the vault of the sky, will make you smaller. The other side, the outside, will make you larger. The beings from the macrocosm or space or whatnot. Here's another example of a mushroom, a petrified mushrooms. Boom. Here's some more. Here's what actual mushrooms look like. And then here's what petrified mushrooms look like. In my opinion, that's what I see. More mushrooms, more mushrooms, more mushrooms. Now, some mushrooms actually do look like this. This is from my hometown here in Colorado Springs at the Garden of the Gods. Wonder why it's called that. Or they have these strange petrified or geologic anomalies like this. Boom, mushrooms. Like, look at that. They just grow flat like that right out of the side of a tree or whatever. And then here's another example of possible like mushroom formations that were petrified in pop culture. See, there's a real one on the side of a tree. There's Captain Kirk in his tiny little Whoville type body, which is, you know, probably, I have to do a video on the fractalverse. Let's see, here's some more. That's the Garden of the Gods, which could also just be mushrooms, essentially. I don't know. That's just one possibility. That's from the movie Noah. Remember those rock angel monsters I was talking about? This is Girolamo Sagato's table that he made. Here's a petrified ear. Now, I can look at that and say that looks just like an ear. And guess what? You can go look it up yourself and you can see whatever evidence it is that will compel you to believe that and side with me if you want to. You don't have to. But that is a petrified ear. Right there, a part of the table. Here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. Girolamo Sagato created this table for, I think, royalty during his time, because that was all the rage, was petrified body parts turned into furniture for some reason. But yes, there it is. Then we've got these interesting menhir. Here's a close-up of that same Titan, etc. Here's some other ones. Let's see. Oh, that one's pretty cool. That looks like a little frog or something. That looks like a camel or something. I don't know. Anyways, you get the point, right? This one clearly is a gigantic reptilian of some sort. You get the point. Whales, all sorts of interesting things. All right, so let me show you. I already showed you all the mushrooms and stuff too. So let's do this. Let me take this down. We're going to go back to regular screen. I'm going to get the chat pulled up. I'd like to jump up into the chat. Dennis is in the chat and says, DreamerZ, what do you think about magic mushrooms and psychedelic drugs? I'm not against them, okay? I don't use them, so, you know, whatever, to each their own. However, I totally support using nature for the reasons that nature tells you to use it. So I don't support the chopping up of the roots and the dividing of the roots to mix these things together to create these little shortcut drugs that man has created called pharmaceuticals, essentially, and illegal versions of pharmaceuticals. Those, I feel, are shortcuts that have dire effects, and they're totally abused, and people use them for the wrong reasons, and they don't even need to because the earth supplies those things. So yes, hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. We also got... Thank you, Rue. Oh, that's right. Yes. Let's see here. Oh, I think that was pretty much it. Anything else in the chat here? That's it. All right, cool. So I'd like to conclude by telling you all, I wish you the best. I love you. Whatever path you're on, I respect. I'm on my own path. So this is what I do on my YouTube channel. I share my perspective and my path and stuff like that with all of you. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to have you side with me. Just because I see a giant in the side of a mountain, that doesn't mean that I see giants inside of every mountain, okay? I try to be balanced in these things. I try to consider many different things. I don't have a belief. I believe in everything. I'm open to various ideas. I'm a truth seeker. I'm seeking out and constantly finding more breadcrumbs to find my way home. And that's what I'm doing. So I share that path with you. Thanks for joining me today. Give Roger a huge shout out from me and my channel to him and his. Hopefully there's not anything negative towards the leak project or anything, I just wanted to use that particular live stream as a good example of how there's a great chasm between modern and mainstream academia and independent researchers like myself. Until next time, I'm DreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.